Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Scottish Football Show, powered by the Rangers Rabble podcast. It's a midweek bonanza after a packed fixture card Tuesday and Wednesday, and we're going to shoot through all the talking points and a little bit more as well. Delighted to say I'm joined by Connor and Lewis. Connor, how we doing?
Aye, not too bad at all. Relieved obviously after we managed to get it over the line last night clearly, but looking forward to this because there is a few talking points for the midweek games, I have to say.
Oh, absolutely. My predictor was all over the shop. I called so many wrong, but I'm sure we'll get to that. Lewis, delighted you could join us. How you doing, my man? All right?
Aye, not bad, mate. Good to be back on the old SPL show. Makes a change for talking about Rangers, despite how fun it is talking about Rangers right now. But there's enough to talk about in Scottish football for a change, so it should be a good one.
Excellent. Listen, if you are, as always, joining us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and get involved. Bring your comments in, and we'll bring a few up and have a wee chat through them certainly as well. As Connor said, I'm feeling a wee bit relieved because I was really confident last night as I sat down to watch the telly, and the first 45 had me in bits. But we might talk Rangers at the end. I'm going to start with what should have been probably the biggest game of the night, but was overshadowed in our minds. Hibs, Hearts and Hibs, should I say. The Edinburgh Derby. Not televised, strangely. We always have this conversation, don't we, Connor, when we talk about the Edinburgh Derby. I think I heard Stuart Wright talking on the random show the other night there that there's 1 in 7 of the last Edinburgh Derby.
That's a joke, isn't it?
It's really bad, isn't it?
It's disgusting.
There's so much good in our game, and it's just been packaged poorly and sold abysmally. Anyway, Connor, we'll come to action on the field because I have to say I thought Hibs played actually pretty well, to be honest. I know Hearts were looking to bounce back in this one after a drubbing at the soon-to-be champions on Saturday, and they needed to bounce back, but Hibs played really, really well.
They did. Got to say, and they were, I think they were hard done by not to get the 3 points. I've got to be honest. Look, don't get me wrong. It's sort of a similar story for Hibs, particularly under Nick Montgomery. Where they've had really good dominant performances, and they've just fell short of getting the 3 points. We've seen it in prior games, even in recent weeks, up at Pittodrie as well. Another game that they should have won. Yes, unlucky with decisions, which again in this one, which I know we'll come on to, they're unlucky with again, but it's they have to start taking their chances, Hibs, because they created some real good openings. I think even the goal they score, Martin Boyle should have scored that anyway. That shouldn't have needed a rebound to come to Marcondes, who I must say, in his first out in the Edinburgh Derby, I thought, for what I've seen, had a real solid performance, and was certainly man of the match for me. But again, it's just about chances. I thought Hearts were a bit flat. I think it's always difficult. You come off the back of a drubbing that they got at the weekend, and that sort of halted their momentum a wee bit that they had built up in the form that they had been on. And you come back for that straight into Edinburgh Derby, the ideal game for them to be bouncing back. But that being said, on the basis of the form both teams have been on and the gap between them this season, you were expecting that Hearts would go and win that game, and it just didn't pan out that way. Hibs were at it, but just that wee bit unlucky they couldn't find that second goal to kill it off.
Lewis, Hearts must have the most goal line clearances this season, because every game I watched, they seem to be clearing the ball off the line.
I know that. I think there was actually 3 in this game alone. I think I counted 3 when I watched the highlights. Hearts, they've been a very, very strange side. I think you take Lawrence Shankland out of that team, and you're talking about a team that might not even be in the top 6 because not one defender for Hearts this season has had a good year. I think the both fullbacks have been very average, and I think every single centre-back has struggled at some point or another. I mean, the first goal comes from Frankie Kent trying to clear it away. He falls at his own feet and he doesn't bother his arse to move and try and get back on his feet to go towards the ball. And then Xander Clark does a similar thing. He comes out to try and block the shot and doesn't bother his arse to get back into the centre of the goal quick enough and have score for it. And if that's Rangers, you're screaming at the telly because the minimal you ask from a professional football player getting paid thousands of pounds a week is effort, and that was just total lack of effort for the first goal. And it was a bit of a theme throughout the game, I think. Again, we've said this before in this show, if Hibs had a good striker, they'd probably be like 4th in the league, because you need to give the credit to their manager. They did create a bucket load of chances. I mean, 21 shots with 6 on target compared to Hearts 14 with 2 on target. It's mental. If Lawrence Shankland played for Hibs, this game would have been about 5-0 to Hibs. That's the difference. That's the quality of player they've got in their hands. And a very, very rare Hibs dominant performance at Tynecastle, and really should have came away with a win. And like Connor said, Marcondes looked very, very good. I think you can tell that he's a wee step above what Hibs have usually got. He was dictating a lot of the play, and he came close to getting a second with a nice wee flick up and volley, but it was a really, really good save for Clark. So, Hibs should have definitely come away with the 3 points.
Do you think as well, just sticking with what you said there, Lewis, about the fullbacks, was Atkinson lucky to stay on the pitch? Because very early on, I know it was a pull on Boyle just before the first goal.
It's similar to the Diamonde number in it with Kelly. He probably should have been sent off as well, but maybe Boyle didn't make Amelia as much as he should have to get the decision made, and that's rare to say on Martin Boyle's part as well. So maybe, but trying to think of sense and refereeing decisions in this country is a minefield that is so difficult because it's the most inconsistent adjudicating you'll see in Europe.
Connor, you were shaking your head there.
Fuck's sake. If you get off a fucking mute, that would help. Excuse the language. Look, I can see where Lewis is coming from, but I've got to disagree personally. I don't think I don't think there's a red card there personally, and same with the Diamonde one. 2 reasons for me with the Hearts one being that yes, he's had a slight sort of fleeting tug. I think if he holds on any longer than he did, absolutely. If he attempts to go, to keep it going, then he probably would get sent off. But it doesn't, for me, impact Martin Boyle in any real way. Doesn't stop his stride. He still gets in. He still takes far too long to get a shot away in the first instance anyway. And I think the same with the Diamonde one as well against Kilmarnock. It's a slight tug, certainly running the risk, but it would have been very, very harsh because it hasn't stopped the players' momentum and stopped them from going forward. And for me, that's got to be the benchmark for those kind of decisions, because what you're talking about is it's a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity that's been denied, and it hasn't denied it because he still got the opportunity. You know what I mean? So I just think on that basis, for me, I'm actually probably for the only time tonight going to stick up for the referee there.
Robert, see regarding the. I actually don't. Did I say I thought the boy was a red card? I don't know if I did, because I didn't think it was a red card, but I actually do think Diamonde was on the verge. Like, if that was on the other foot in terms of being given against Rangers, I think you would be very angry, because the difference is the Kilmarnock player never got a shot away. So the referees maybe played the advantage for Boyle. He's took the shot on, and that's the difference. Like, if the Kilmarnock player had hit the shot and then Butland had cleared that would maybe be the difference. But Diamonde did tug him. It didn't fully stop him, didn't come down or anything, but it did stop his run. and you don't know if he would have got a shot, he would have broke onto the ball before Butland. So I do think Mo Diamonde was pretty lucky to not be penalised for that, in my opinion. Taking the blue tinted specs off for a change, but call a spade, so...
No, it's all relative, and we're looking for consistency, certainly. Conor, just to stay with refereeing decisions then, because I know Lewis has mentioned the second half and Marcondes' chance, but I just want to obviously touch on the Hearts equaliser and the penalty itself. There's maybe two instances in the box, actually, because Alan Forrest, I thought was fouled, to be brutally honest, but then the Vargas one, I don't know if he buys that. I know there's slight contact when you slow it down and you really look at it, but I don't know, it's not for me, that, I've got to be honest, but I just wonder how you saw it.
Yeah, well, and here is where I stop defending the referees. Never a penalty for me. The Alan Forrest one, there's more of a shout for. I still think incredibly soft if it's given, because it's the kind of one where I think Forrest has definitely looked to buy it. You know, when you see attackers, sometimes they sort of fling, just get their body slightly in the way of the defender to encourage a wee bit of contact, and I think he's gone down softly. So the Alan Forrest one, I think, is probably a 50-50 at best. You might get that some weeks, other weeks you won't, just with the inconsistencies. But the one that's actually given on Vargas, look, in the first instance, I can see why Kevin Clancy points to the spot in the first instance, because for where he's standing, and he's in a fairly decent position, he sees that ball's broke back out, and having just not pointed to the spot for Forrest, he then sees that it is a heavy touch. You've got to say that. It's a heavy touch for Will Fish. That is seemingly Vargas is then latching onto, and it does look at first as if he sort of turns into Vargas and takes him out. However, VAR on this occasion did actually do the job that it gets paid for by clubs and actually check the decision. I know that's a shocker in this week of all weeks. And I'm all for referees having a backbone, and I talk often enough about, not always being influenced by VAR and standing by a decision. But when he looks at that on the screen, I just don't know what he's seen, because, yeah, is there a tiny bit of contact in terms of he maybe slightly stands in his toe, but, Vargas does not need to go down. You can see it because there's actually maybe half a second between the contact happening and then Vargas decides, I'm going to go down now. So he's absolutely bought that one for me. And I think, Kevin Clancy had a chance to right a wrong decision. And unfortunately, when he's went to that monitor, he's decided that he didn't feel he made a mistake. And okay, on one hand, credit to him for having a bit of conviction about him, because you don't see that often enough. But on the other hand, it's the wrong decision. And really, he should have been able to say, you know what, nah, no penalty. Because if it wasn't for the marginal contact, I'd argue that's very close to a dive for me by Vargas.
Well, I've got a dive for you later on in one of the games I want to talk about, certainly. But just, Lewis, then, what ensued was absolute carnage from the Hibs support. There was all sorts though, and Lauren Shankland has put up an Instagram post. I'm sure you have saw it. I think he said there was a pie, some AirPods, a bottle opener. Now, the bottle opener actually is really quite serious, because it's got one of them corkscrew things on there. It looks like a lethal weapon. Yeah, and you can go on about the Old Firm supporters and, how ill-behaved they are, etc., etc. But I've not seen scenes like that in a football stadium for years.
Listen, there's no place for that. That's prehistoric stuff. That just should not be happening, and it's the type of thing that puts the Scottish game, that gives casts a shadow over it and makes us look a lot less than what we are. And football is, it's for the working class, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a sophisticated affair. You don't have a God-given right to run onto the pitch or fling projectiles onto the pitch because you pay for your ticket. You pay for your ticket to come and watch the spectacle that's happening in front of you. You do not get involved with the players or anybody else on the pitch. But just regarding the penalty, I don't know what's going on here, but I actually think both of them are a penalty. I do think the Vargas one is extremely soft. But see, I'm just watching it back right now. I think it Hanlon. He just body checks Vargas. He just stops his body, and it's like he uses his arse to hit Vargas in the chest, and it's contact, and he doesn't touch the ball. You know what I mean? And the difficulty comes in like force. That's the difficulty. How do you justify what force was used? But diving is a part of the game. The Italians have made a living out of it. You know that it's just unfortunately that's what happens. And I think the Forest one, I think that's definitely a penalty. I think Wolfish completely misses the ball and Forrest is sent him for a hot dog, to be honest with you. So I think in reality what's happened is the referee has thought that I probably should have gave the Forrest foul, so I'll give the Vargas foul. I think in reality that's what's happened. That he's missed the Forrest one. He's went, right, I can't do this. But fair play to him for going to the monitor and actually sticking to his decision, because it's a very rare, very, very rare sight to see that.
No, listen, I don't.
For anyone who's listening back,
Just
on you go, Connor. Sorry, mate. On you go.
Oh, I started and you just started talking to me. No, I was going to say I totally get. You're saying I think the Forest one was a more solid shout. I think it's good to see a referee sticking by his convictions. I still disagree with it in terms of I'm still not convinced it is a pen. But your point about diving is spot on. There is a lot of that, and part of that is because sometimes you get punished for being honest as a player. Because we're talking about the Diamonde one there. I think we can all agree that if Polworth decides to throw himself to the ground, Diamonde definitely gets sent off. And he chose not to do that. So, in that aspect, they might look, and it sounds a silly thing to say, but they might actually look back on that. And McInnes might say, do you know what, Liam, you probably could have bought us one there. And that's a sad indictment of where we are and how games are officiated, that has to happen. But
see, just on your point there, Connor, you're totally right. Like, see Ryan Kent, for example, he was prime suspect for that. He was the most fouled player I've ever watched for Rangers, and he barely ever dived. He wasn't intelligent enough to do it, or maybe he just didn't have that personality. But he could have bought us so many fouls, and he just never ever did it. And then you get somebody like Neymar, who again, like the Italians, has made a career out of diving. A fantastic football player, but a lot of his success comes from playing the dark arts of the game, and unfortunately, it's here to stay.
Okay, listen, we're paying far too much attention to these referees, but Connor, Shanklin steps up and dispatches with aplomb. I just want to know where you stand on players with these social media posts after big games, and we really need to take him to task for his. I think he gave it a 1 out of 10 for that Balti Pie that he ate. I mean, a Balti Pie is definitely a solid 8 out of 10. So I want to take him to task on that for sure. But no, on seriousness, players taking to social media and where do you sort of stand on that?
I don't particularly mind it as such. I think you've always got to be careful, certainly, because you're always liable to end up with egg in your face or Balti Pie. If you kind of give it the big I am at times social media and you do this, and then the next game you have an absolute stinker, you're getting dogs abuse, right? And I think in that aspect, maybe be careful, but I don't mind players showing a bit of character and a bit of confidence, because you know what, over and above just being football players, they are people, they are characters, and there used to be years ago you had a lot of great entertainers in the game who, before the social media era, who used to love doing all that sort of stuff on the park and interviews with the media and stuff like that, before you had this thing like social media. And I just think I love a bit, and I particularly like it when they bite back at certain aspects of the media when they're talking absolute nonsense about them as well. When people are, because you get people who like to just stir the pot, and I think if I'm a player and I'm listening to somebody talk garbage about me constantly, at some point I'm going to actually defend myself and go, do you know what, see you, proof in the pudding, and that's what they've got to do. But you've got to back it up on the park, which, to be fair, Lauren Shanklin certainly does most weeks, and that, I must say, is the best piece of pie control I've ever seen on a football pitch.
Listen, just to wrap this one up, Blues, I know you touched on Marcondes and the Clark save earlier on, but Shanklin has a decent, so I'm going to call it a lob. Like Vargas shoots wide later on as well, so Hearts had a couple of chances as well, but Honours even probably a bit of a fair result.
No, actually, I think at least 7 out of 10 times Hibs should come away with us with the 3 points. It's a bit of a joke because, like you said, I mean, that Shankland chance, it was very audacious, and if it came off, it would have been excellent. But they had 2 shots on target, and this was at Tynecastle. Tynecastle's probably outside the Old Firm the most difficult away fixture on the calendar, and especially for Hibs. You know, it should no for me again. Like Hibs should have put Celtic away. It's the exact same performance. They created so many opportunities, and they just don't have somebody up there like a Lawrence Shankland to put it away, and that's why this game has probably ended up 1 each. So unlucky for Hibs.
Okay, let's draw a line up because we have spent 20 minutes talking about the Edinburgh derby. So, I think Montgomery's biggest problem is the fact that they just can't seem to string together back-to-back wins. They're really sort of up and down, and I think had it not been for Dundee, that I think maybe it'd been a bit of free fall, then I think they probably would have been in the bottom 6. But there seems to be a bit of a race on. So we will go to Celtic Park, where Dundee pretty much just laid down and got their belly tickled in a 7-8 goal thriller, actually. I don't want to go through the goals play-by-play, Connor, if we can, because there's quite a few of them. However, a lot of the goals seem to come from crosses and headers or balls into the box just being poorly defended. There was a real common theme amongst all 7 of the goals.
Oh, it was, it was probably the worst defensive performance I've seen this season. And there's been some shockers, without question. But for me, Dundee didn't seem to have a clue what they were doing. And listen, you've got to say, initially, watching highlights, the first 2 or 3 minutes, Dundee did actually have 1 or 2 wee half chances where they might have opened the score on themselves, and that could change the dynamic of the game. Of course, it didn't. And then Celtic, went on an absolute tear. And I can't. When crosses are coming into the box, you can concede one of them, every so often it can happen. To concede 3 so cheaply in the one game in the space of 20 minutes is unacceptable, totally unacceptable. Then you've got a goal, which I think, to be fair, Neil McCann on Sportscene summed up pretty well when he said it was like a 5-a-side goal, the Callum McGregor one, which it was. It was just 2 players passing the ball at the edge of the box and 3 Dundee defenders, 3 of them, all go to the ball. Not one person is focusing on. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That is schoolboy errors. And I know Tony Dock has come out and he's sort of apologised to his fans for that performance last night. And he is right in terms of his post-match when he said that it's not something he's seen his team this season. And I think we'd accept that. I mean, they've had tough games up against the Old Firm. We went to Dens and absolutely, battered them as well. But to be 6-0 down at half time with that kind of defending is really, really poor. It really is. And I think from your point of view, they're just going to have to kind of take it and move on. But that can't be happening again because it's too easy. As good as the goals were for Celtic, and I say that through gritty teeth, but I've got to be honest, they were good goals, and Celtic, to be fair to them, certainly in that first half, were playing very well. But Dundee, you've got to be better than that. You just can't be conceding 6 goals like that.
I think Connor comes on to a point, actually, because I felt probably around October time, people seem to be handing Matt O'Reilly Player of the Year. And since the links to Atletico Madrid, I think he's tailed off. He's been really quiet, probably for about 5, 6, 7 weeks. He played well last night, I have to say, from what I've seen. I thought Yang played well as well in spells. But given that, you've got to balance that off with the fact that Dundee were just, after the first sort of 5-10 minutes, when they go 3-0 down, maybe I think after sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, and that's it, the game's done.
I might go as far as say this maybe needs investigated for some sort of match fixing, because this is I've never seen a team at this level defend like this. I mean, you could put, who's that? Like Brother Rangers, for example, would come to Parkhead and no concede like Dundee did.
Oh, Bucky Bissell came in only because he's 5.
Exactly. There you go. It was embarrassing. You look at the first 3 goals, I think were all a cross to a header, just to a completely unmarked player. I think out of the 7 goals, I think you've maybe got 2 of them were actually really well worked. I know Connor said
the last one for the young boy.
The last one with the young Daniel Kelly, who
brilliant finish.
due to Football Manager, I'm quite aware of him. I think Celtic have got big hopes for him. He's got a lot of plaudits. I think he's only 17 or 18. That was a fantastic finish, and that was created for Yang, who, you know, earlier on in the season when we first started doing these shows, I gave him a wee shout out. Just, I think it was against Lazio maybe. He looked really, really good, and he started to get this reputation that he was maybe, you know, the typical winger, all show and the end product, but he's been really good the last couple of games, and, you know, he might be a solution to the winger issue at Celtic. I mean, it's crazy. They've got about 75 wingers, and like only one of them seem to perform every few games. It's crazy. But listen, let them get excited, because see, this game is the definition of a false dawn. They overperformed their XG by about 5 goals. This should never should have been 7-1. They had 17 shots with 10 in target, and they finished 7 of the 10 shots. That is like unheard of, absolutely unheard of. And then you compile that with the Dundee defending. Let them get excited, because they are still behind us, and hopefully this will be a wee false dawn, and it'll give them confidence, and we'll see if the Jambos can turn up against them next. But terrible defending for a pretty impressive Dundee side this year.
Connor, I don't know if you sort of saw it from the highlights package, but I kind of felt it when I was sort of watching. You could tell at times when the crowd knew what the score was at Rugby Park, and then later on when the full-time whistle was, when they obviously knew how that had ended. There is going to be a lot of to and fro. That's what a title race brings you. It's probably about how you handle that and your mentality.
100% it is, of course it is. And listen, you could tell the same watching the Rangers game last night as well. You know, the Rangers fans were very much aware that Celtic were absolutely pummeling Dundee. You know, and you were getting into territory, you know, with them 6-0 up. And I'm actually, at that time, I must admit, I was legitimately thinking, if this carries on, they're going to win about 10-0 here. This is going to be record-breaking scorelines, because it's ridiculous. And you know, you're sitting at one point going, right, well, if we get a draw, will that still keep us top? Or if they now scored more goals than us, because the goal difference is going to be nip and tuck now, and you know, so it's going to be like that, and it's going to be about who handles the pressure. But I think, you know, yes, you've got to give them some credit in terms of it's probably their best performance they've put in for a wee while, albeit you could still argue that it was only a 45-minute performance, because of course in the second half, you actually drew the second half one each if you break it into halves. That's not, I'm not making that as a disparaging mark. I'm just saying in terms of about the only thing Dundee could have achieved after being 6-0 down at half time was don't lose the second half, which they didn't. And of course, listen, you're 6-0 up, you're going to take the foot off the gas. But no, you're going to see that. We showed a good mentality last night and got the job done. But that's what you'll see that with the crowds. You know, if they're winning or if they're behind, how's the other team doing? Are they winning? Oh, it's a bit more nervy, and you know, that's the nip and tuck of a title race. And you know, bring it on. It's the first time in a long time it's really felt like that.
Lewis, just a quick word on Aramida. We obviously saw him start the game last night, and you know, if you'd gone back 12 months and told Celtic fans that Kyogo would be on the bench, I think they'd probably been saying you're not right in the tight, as they say. However, looking at Ida and looking at his movement, is he more of a Brendan Rodgers player in the sense of, you know, you like him maybe to Dembele and Edouard? You know, he plays between the goalpost almost, and he's got a bit of range of movement than Kyogo, a bit bigger stature.
I think physically he's certainly in that mould. He's nowhere near as technical as the likes of Dembele and Edouard, and you can see that, you know, when he's outside the box, he's miles off it. I think that's probably why he's struggled in the Championship. He's not as technically gifted as somebody like Kyogo, but he's got 7 goal involvements in 5 games. So he should be starting.
What is that down to? What is he doing differently that Kyogo's not been doing up until now?
Well, it's probably his physicality. That's the only thing it can be, because again, like, I don't think his finishing looks any better than Kyogo. And you know, their goals are a bit skewed because he has scored 2 penalties. It might even be 3 penalties, but either way, then, you know, it's only 2 or 3 open play goals. But it's just just your status on what you performed like last season doesn't give you the God-given right to start every game. You need to perform here and now. And Kyogo just is not performing. I mean, he's massively underperforming. I think that's about 7 players now have overtook him in the goal scoring charts, including our captain, by the way, who is now joint second in the league for goals scored. But he does look absolutely fantastic. He's a massive unit. He's very fast. He deals with the physicality in this league very well, and that's something that a lot of players coming from England tend to struggle with. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be starting.
Okay. We'll draw on the line under that one, and we'll head up to Pittodrie, where Neil Warnock is having an absolute terrible time on his holidays. He just can't buy a win, Connor, can he? And again, you look at last night as well. Majowski seems off it. He doesn't seem his usual self. He had a couple of chances that you'd usually bank on him scoring. And St Johnston, who have been so poor, can't score goals of bag 2 and come away with all 3 points.
Yeah, listen, it's a big win for St Johnston, first and foremost. That's put them. It's almost unbelievable to say this, given where both teams have been this season, and particularly with how poor St Johnston have been, that they're now level in points with Aberdeen after that win last night. It's only goal difference that's separating them at this moment in time, which is slightly surprising when you consider that Aberdeen were also victims of a 6-0 drubbing at Parkhead as well earlier in the season, so they've not exactly kept the back door shut. But listen, I think Neil Warnock is finding out what a lot of people already know about Aberdeen, because I remember him coming out after he played us at Ibrox in his first game, and he was very positive about the performance he had put in at Ibrox, and he was like, listen, I saw a lot of good things out there that makes me feel positive going forward, and I think they can go and get back on track and do things. And what he's starting to understand is that the Aberdeen you see when you play Rangers is not the Aberdeen, or to be fair to them, the game against Celtic at Pittodrie where they drew 1 each, is not the Aberdeen who seems to turn up in these games. I think Majowski, listen, I can sort of slightly give him a bit of a buy. I think with how good he's been this year, you can let him off with having an off day. He certainly didn't bring his shooting boots, but other players round about him had chances and didn't step up. I thought Leighton Clarkson should do better with his when he's through one-on-one with the keeper. Johnny Hayes, again, drags it wide. He's got to be minimum test the keeper there, put it on target. And it just seems to me that clearly if Majowski doesn't manage to find the back of the net in a game, they're really struggling for players who are going to do it for them, outweigh him. And defensively, again, it's shocking. The penalty kicks, the Stonewall penalty, it's quite frankly ludicrous challenge. Given where it is in the area of the box, you don't need to make a challenge there. You actually don't. You just stay on your feet and you try and sort of shepherd them, and you keep goal side. And that allows runners to get back, and he didn't do that. And then again, the second is, to be fair, a terrific ball for the second goal. You've got to save it outside of the foot, but Kim Pioka shows good strength, but again, it's too easy. I don't think it's a far cry to say that Aberdeen right now are in a scrap to avoid that playoff spot.
Lewis, it's a point well made, because they are level on points, albeit Aberdeen have got that game in hand, but there's no guarantees, because as you've seen there, they're just not pulling up any trees. I think even after his only win in the Cup, Neil Warnock had said, if we pull it, that'll get put out in the next round, and he's probably not far wrong. Defensively, Keller Roos, who I've really rated, is fell off this season, but that's because he knows he's getting a bit of contract this summer. Garterman, I know we're going to come on to defenders at the end of the show, but Garterman, I just don't know what he's doing.
No, I mean, we just, Connor slightly touched on it, and we spoke about it earlier with Shankland. Like, Aberdeen would be with Livingston right now. Like, that is how poor their season has been. Without that 13 goal mark from Bojan Majowski, Aberdeen would be second bottom of this league, without a doubt. They've been a terrible football side this year under both managers. I think Neil Warnock's come in, he thought it was going to be a bit of a scoosh, and listen, you don't hire pensioners for a reason. I mean, he is here just on his holly bags. He's here to come and watch the famous, let's be honest. He's going to have that light blue shirt and that red, white and blue tie on at the end of the season, because he is not here to manage Aberdeen into any sort of success. And if anything, they've slightly regressed. I mean, And it just goes to show you, again, Connor touched on it, Milovski just did not have his shooting boots on at all today, and it just meant that Aberdeen had nothing to offer. And Leighton Clarkson, that chance is abysmal. A player of his quality, who, by the way, he's been absolutely horrid this year. Absolutely horrid. And he's somebody at the start of the year I was tipping for Rangers.
You were as well. I was going to say he was one of your favourites.
Listen, he would not even make the Rangers B team right now. He's had a terrible season. He's a fantastic wee football player, but a horrible season. It's just that it's a prototypical Aberdeen performance and a prototypical St Johnston performance. I mean, St Johnston just sat in and let Aberdeen try and create absolutely nothing, and they didn't create anything. And the second goal was beautiful. A wee Travella right through, and it was well finished by Kim Pioka, like Connor said. But Aberdeen are atrocious, and see, just a general overview of the league. In my short lifespan watching, the SPL, I think this is the worst quality domestic season that I've ever watched, and that's including both Rangers and Celtic. I know Rangers are playing well just now, but I think the quality of the 12 firm sides are very, very low in comparison to what's been and gone, and the rest of the league is just absolutely atrocious.
Connor, just on St Johnston, obviously they wouldn't have been banking on 3 points there, but they picked them up nonetheless. Craig Levein said they had to have show more fight and sort of win their battles, and he felt they'd done that, but they certainly took their chances as well. And Kim Pioka looks not a bad find. I'm not saying that he's going to be ripping up trees, but he offers something different from Nicky Clark. He's got a bit of legs. And I think he's someone that could maybe get them 4 or 5 goals before the end of the season and maybe push them up that table slightly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's probably that wee bit of energy they've needed up front, you've got to say, because it's been probably for the last 2 seasons, they've not really had that proper striker. I know, to be fair, Chris Kane contributed, enough. He done just about enough to help them out at times. But again, he was one goal every 5 or 6 games kind of player. Usually coming on off the bench, hence why he's now obviously moved clubs. I think Kim Pioka could be important for them because it's what they need is goals. The one thing about St Johnston, to be fair to them, most weeks they don't concede a barrel load of goals. Usually when they're losing games, it's they might get the odd week where they lose a 2-3-0, but they're usually very tight games and they're in them, but they don't take chances and they don't score. And when you don't do that, you're going to get punished. So I think they need that. And look, I'm not a fan of Craig Levein, personally. I think the guy's a bit of an idiot, but I don't mind St Johnstone as a club, and I would like to see them staying up. I think when I look at the other clubs that are down there, I'd certainly prefer, a St Johnstone and, to be fair, a Ross County as well to stay up than a Livy or an Aberdeen. I mean, I'd be quite happy if they went down. That would be the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. So fair play to them. I think it's interesting as well, quickly on the top of the managers, because you've got 2 sort of elder statesmen and managers in the dugouts yesterday, and both took similar approaches in terms of Craig Levein did change up his formation and he made several changes as well to try and change it up and do something different, whereas Warnock did that, but it seemed to throw the balance off because he's converted to that 3 at the back, and I don't think that works for Aberdeen because they don't have good enough defenders to deal with a 3 at the back kind of situation. And the other challenge is when you're playing against St Johnston, you can't really justify having your 2 wide players end up dropping into a back 5 because that's what you'd expect against the Old Firm. You know what I mean? No St Johnston at home. So listen, there's big problems there, and I think as much as Neil Warnock's a character, and I wish him well personally, I think he's massively underestimated the task he's got on his hands.
Pittodrie, no stranger to boos, but they were not happy with what they were seeing, certainly. Just this question quickly to both of you then, Lewis. I'll start with you. As Connor touched on there, both clubs have appointed managers of more experience. St Johnstone earlier on the season and then Aberdeen later on. Do you think both will switch in the summer?
I don't think St Johnstone will. I don't think they've got any reason to do that.
So you think Craig Levine's shown enough to get another shot at the next season?
I think so, certainly, because the early parts of the season, myself included, a lot of people had already set St Johnston for being doomed in this league, and he's massively turned it around. But Aberdeen, absolutely no chance. And I heard Barry Ferguson, and listen, we all love Barry, but he had the view that Robinson should have stayed in the job. No, you don't keep a guy in the job just because he's a younger manager, and the manager you're going for it is a guy that's had experience. If you're not performing, it doesn't matter what age you are or what experience you've had, you lose the job. And he wasn't performing, and Aberdeen would have still been plummeting, maybe not to the same degree, but they still would be plummeting under the former manager. So I disagree with our former captain on that, and I will agree with him on the point that the next appointment for Aberdeen needs to be absolutely on the money, because they are very quickly losing their status as the third best club in the country, certainly.
Yeah, well, but you're nowhere near that at the minute. Hearts have made that their own. You can see that by the points total. They're just playing against themselves really at the moment, Connor. But do you agree with Lewis's sentiment that Craig Levine's done enough? Because I just think that I know they won the game last night, but I said it on Sunday night. I don't see an identity from them other than let's not get beat, and I don't know if that's enough.
I mean, well, obviously, certainly Warnock will be going. We know that. I think Levine, has he done enough? I don't know. I think it's a tricky one because you can't deny the fact that they do look a more solid unit under Levine than they did. Certainly in Stephen McLean's last couple of months with him, when they really took a bad tumble down the table and were struggling. So you can't deny he's done that. The problem with Craig Levein is he's not an ambitious appointment for St Johnston. In terms of if you keep him long term, what's the plan there? What, like you say about identity, what's the identity? What is your, Levein will take you so far in terms of he'll make you a hard team to break down. You've got to give him credit for that. He can set up a good defence, but he's not renowned for good football, and that's a club that since they won the cup double have been severely starved of good football. Even that season in the league, it wasn't great. They just were brilliant in the cups. So for me, I would prefer that they went in a different direction unless Craig Levein decides, let me let the shackles off. Because I think he's got good players there that if he just let them, stop being so, we need to make sure we don't lose. Don't go out there not to lose, go out there to win the game. Go and show what you've got. Because Kim Pioka looks a decent player, but in a Craig Levein squad, he's going to be stifled by a lack of proper forward movement consistently.
Roberts, I would just pose the question to the pair of yous, right? Do you not need to, measure the expectation here? Because maybe St Johnston's view on being an SPL team is not to get beat, because that's the most realistic way that they can achieve staying in the league. Because if you look at somebody like, Nick Montgomery at Hibs, they're plummeting right now because he's trying to play this open, branded, attacking football, and he's not got the quality of player. And if Hibs can't get the quality of player to play that style, then St Johnston are never getting that quality of player. The cup double was that's a once in a lifetime achievement for a club like St Johnston. That'll never happen again, and they struggle so much to get players to come to St Johnston, and I just don't think it's realistic for them to go, right, we need to go and try and get a forward-thinking manager, because I think that could end up in them being relegated. Like I said, you need to look at teams like Hibs, who are currently sitting, 7th in the league because they're trying to play that style.
Well, my thinking behind this, Lewis, was if Livy are to go down, there was no secret that they'd approached Davy Martindale before the Levein appointment. I was thinking maybe does Levein see them at the end of the season and then Martindale sort of draws a line under it after he takes Livy down. I know that's not a great appointment because he's just took Livy down. However, I just think he needs a freshness. I think both parties probably need a freshness, certainly. And then St John's can pinch Tete Yengi and that will solve all their problems.
I would say, mate, that's actually hilarious, because seeing the analysis on the Livy game, I pointed out Yengi and I said he would be an absolutely fantastic acquisition for St Johnston, because that has been seriously, it's written down right now on my wee Word document. he'd be a brilliant acquisition, because I didn't even realise he's only just turned 23, Big Yengi, so there's a lot of room to grow, and I think he's only got a 1-year deal. I might be mistaken on that, and you pick him up for a free, he'd be a fantastic acquisition for somebody like St Johnston.
I think he would be, and I think just around the point of my frustration with St Johnston simply being that they won the cup double, and you're right, it's a once in a lifetime thing, but what that should have done, it's certainly, because you can't deny it, it's not a lot of money you win for it, right? But when you win a cup double in your St Johnston, the money they will have got for that for them will have been real good money to go and win 2 cups, and I just don't think they've used it properly. They should. The strategy of recruitment's been a problem. Maybe, I don't know if there's a world where, say in the summer, Livy do go down, maybe they bring Martindale in, and you could put somebody like Craig Levine upstairs, have him, take on some of the recruitment responsibilities. Because the one thing about Craig Levine, he has, a decent enough record over the years of identifying good players that he's brought in. You look at Hearts, Dundee United when he was a manager there. So I wouldn't be against that, because I don't think as a partnership that would be a bad thing for St Johnston.
Right then, okay, it's a nice little segue onto the Livy game. By the way, this game looked brilliant on the telly. I don't know if they just packaged it right, but it looked like a really good wee atmosphere going on, and plenty of talking points, certainly. So we will start with Tete Yengi's goal, Lewis, nice and early. He pounced. I think everyone in the predictor had him for the first goal, certainly, or most people did. And things started well for Livingston.
It did start well. It started well very, very early, and I think that might have been the issue in this game, because it meant that Livy kind of had to, defend for their lives in the remaining half. And statistically, the game really didn't look like that. I think they were very evenly matched on chances created, but watching the highlights, it looked like one-way traffic from Motherwell. Livingston didn't really seem to create anything of proper note. And just after the first Motherwell goal went in, I think they just kind of took over for the game. And, it's just like, I don't know about yous, but does Blair Spittle, is he capable of just scoring a normal goal? Like, every fucking week that boy scores a world. That was another fantastic finish. And honestly, he's a very, very unexpected shout for Player of the Year. His numbers are really, really impressive for Motherwell, and he's a wee bit younger. I would be telling the Old Firm to have a look at him, but I think he's like 27, 28, but he's had an absolutely fantastic season. And I think this might have been the last nail in the coffin for Martindale and Livingston, unfortunately, because I think that now puts them, I think that's 9 points or 7 points, can't quite remember, behind Ross County with one more game played. So it's very, very, very frightening times for Livingston. But like I said, shout out to Big.
6 points with County with a game in hand.
6, right, there you go. So that could be extended to 9, and it looks like there's no way out now for Livingston, unfortunately. I think they did need to get that one up at Ross County if they had any hopes of staying in the league. But like you said, it's right here. Shout out to Big Yengi. Honestly, any of the lower place teams, if he is available on a free transfer or any sort of small fee, I would be certainly looking to pick him up, because despite his size and his stature, he's got really, really good feet, and he's got a decent eye for goal as well. So,
Connor, as well, I think what I would say about Yengi, if you're going to take him, whoever it may be, for a step up, there's something to potential to move up. Do you know what I mean? And grow the player and maybe sell him on for a bit more. So I think that's something to be looked at. But just on Motherwell themselves, Stuart Kettle said, anyone who watched the game could see they were the better side. Some of the goals, I really, as Lewis touched on, Spittle's goals, great. Sam Nicholson's come in from the MLS. He looked lively. And the boy on loan from, is it Blackburn Vale he's on loan from, I believe. He's adding goals as well. So they seem to be coming onto a game at the right time, because as we spoke about last week, they were getting dragged into it slightly.
Oh, they were. They were in danger of probably getting dragged into it, and I think they're just finding that wee bit of form at the right time, and ultimately they're doing what Livy are struggling to do, what County are struggling to do, what Aberdeen have been struggling to do. Beat the teams round about you. Beat the teams you've got to beat. And they're doing that. They're getting those points by hook or by crook. I thought last night, again, the highlights package. They obviously done a good job of sort of juicing it up a bit in Sky Sports, but for me, I would not be selecting a game on that surface over an Edinburgh derby. They could have been playing Man City. I wouldn't have cared. But I thought Motherwell responded well to going behind. I thought probably the better team, and they are finding a wee bit of form. I think Stuart Ketwell said at the weekend that he's wanting to instill in his players the need to keep playing for 96, 97, whatever minutes in a game, because they did let it slip very late against Celtic. Which, to be fair, the one thing about Motherwell this season, they've had an awful lot of goals quite late on and late drama in their games, whether it's been goals they've conceded or goals that they've scored. They've done it plenty this season, gone late on, and but yesterday, job done for them, and I'm sure they'll be absolutely fine now. Motherwell, I mean, they could still squeeze into that top six without question, but they need to get a good, consistent run of wins on the board.
Is that a point, actually, Lewis, that just about the top six? Sorry, I know we're going to come in there with something, but everyone's focusing on Dundee and Hibs, and Motherwell just quietly behind Hibernian picking up points.
It's very difficult with Motherwell because they're probably the most inconsistent team in the league. They win 5-0 one week and then they get beat 3-0 the next. You never know who they're going to start either. I think that there's a lot of different variations in team selection and styles of play, and I just think they're a wee bit too inconsistent. But then again, this is what my point about the league in general is just so poor. I mean, it's like 12 points separates like fifth place to bottom place. It's just that you don't find that anywhere else.
There's not a league like it.
No, I mean, at least it's entertaining, in it? They're all very, very close together. But I just wanted to give a wee shout out to our very own Adam Devine, who anytime I've got the chance to watch him play for Motherwell, he's looked very, very good. He's somebody that I think has probably no had the fairest crack at the whip with Rangers. He came in for Bournemouth being injured, and I thought he was absolutely outstanding, despite the fact that he was playing left back, and that's where he was playing in this game, and he looked very, very good. And I think he's somebody that's shown that he's definitely capable of playing at this level. Whether that's at Rangers or not is remains to be seen, but he's definitely SPL standard.
Just a one-team answer to both of you on the night. 6th spot, Hibs, Motherwell, Dundee. Lewis?
I'm going to go Hibs.
Connor?
Dundee.
I'll go Motherwell, so it's a nice fair spread. All right. You can come back and we'll talk about this in May. Okie dokie, then there's one game left. It was Tuesday night's televised game up at Dingwall. Ross County hosted St Mirren. And actually, to be honest, deserved of a point, because I didn't think St Mirren were brilliant on the night. We'll talk about refereeing decisions, Connor, in a moment. If we can be a bit briefer than we were during the Edinburgh derby, that'd be great. So we'll got Cots to go to, but certainly they get off to a great start. Alex Gogic gifts them an absolute howler, and it's an easy tap in that your granny could put away for Jordan White.
I think Stevie Robinson, I think, summed it up quite well in his post-match. I think Gogic has been such an important player for St Mirren this season. I think he's had a bit of a career renaissance at St Mirren, because I think before that he had sort of fell away into really obscurity. He wasn't doing much after the time at Hamilton, where he had sort of shone for them. And I think what happened last night was it wasn't just him; it was a litany of errors for St Mirren. It really was. I think when you've got players can't get the ball on the deck and just play football, they're putting it up in there, and the ball that was actually played back to Gogic that he was having to try and deal with was not great. And he's just unfortunately under his back pass. He probably didn't even realise Jordan White was there, which is again lack of awareness. And I mean, Jordan White won't get many easier goals than that in his career, certainly. But to give him a little bit of credit as well, he's still done well to show the composure and to sort of just shift it around the keeper and pop it home, as you should do for that position. But I'm pretty sure Alex Gogic will not have been watching Sports Scene last night.
Lewis, there was I can't remember the player's name, so forgive me there, but it seemed like a bit of a dive for County for a penalty just before the handball at the other end. I don't know which one. Was it Latorre playing last night? Was it Tuesday night? Was it? It might have been him. I can't remember the player's name, so forgive me there. But certainly looked like a dive to me. Wasn't even checked by VAR. Nothing was given. They just sort of played on. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I don't know, because I've got down that penalty shout was after the handball, so I don't know if I've missed one before it. Was there 3 penalty shouts or 2? No,
I've got it down before. There was 2, wasn't there? There was 2, and it was before the handball, wasn't it, Con? Am I right?
Right,
yeah, I had it down as before, but
is it Ryan Leake that's leaning back, and I think it's James Bolton that tries to claim for a penalty.
Oh no, there is a third one. Yeah. No, he's right. He's right.
So I've not got the first one done, so apologies.
Right, okay. No, it's all right. The punters have probably went to their beds by now anyway. We'll get away with that. But no, certainly I kind of felt he died. But anyway, we'll get to the main one, Connor, the handball. Why that wasn't reviewed or wasn't given, should I say? This is what I'm saying about consistency.
Oh dear. Dear me. Listen, it's hard. This is the reason these shows go on so long. If we could just have a game week where officials do their job properly and there's nothing to talk about from, I would be delighted. We'd be done in half an hour. You know what I mean? It's just, I can't for the life of me understand how you as a VAR official, particularly Greg Aitken, who it was, who's a full-time VAR official, so he should be, one of the better VAR officials because he does it all the time. He should know. How are you only checking the pullback and not the handball? Because when you're looking at the pullback, you can't look for the pullback and not see the handball. I mean, for crying out loud, his hand was basically touching the top of the stand. I don't know how high he wanted it to be and how obvious he wanted it to be. I just feel for teams like St Mirren and County as well and others, the smaller clubs, they're paying money that they can barely afford to pay to have this tool implemented into our game to make it better, to get decisions right. And last night, they should be screaming for a refund because they didn't do their job. Quite simply, they just didn't check. And it's unacceptable for me. You see they come out and they say it like it's, well, they just didn't check, move on. No. Your job is to check every incident. How many obscure, stupid things have you seen VR spend 3 or 4 minutes checking that there's absolutely nothing in? And the most blatant handball that has happened this week, and I will include the 3 handballs at Rugby Park, the one that went against us and the 2 that, we possibly could have got as well. I can't for the life of me get why you're not checking it. And why are teams paying money for this? What needs to happen is, in the summer, when it comes, because it's too late to do it now in the season, these teams all need to get on the same page with each other, the SPFL clubs, and sit down and have proper conversations with Crawford Allen and make clear that if he doesn't shape up, he can ship out, because we can bring somebody else in to run the refereeing in this country, because that comes from leadership. That there's no other reason why you don't check that other than just a total lack of common sense. They've already had to issue an apology to Hibs. Pretty sure they'll do the same with St Mirren. And it's not so bad for us, because at Rangers and Celtic, it doesn't matter the money that we're spending. We can afford it. These teams are having to really dig into their pockets to pay for this, and they're not getting what they're paying for.
Listen, that money could be put to better use, like maybe grass pitches for a couple of them for a start. Anyway, channel member Jim Sloan in with a super chat there. Top of the table, we are simply the best. The rest, follow. Jim, as always, cheers for the support, mate. And we are back on tomorrow, Friday, with a Rangers pod, so I'm sure you'll be tuned in for that, certainly. Lewis, just on St Mirren then, they get the equaliser. Olasanya bullies the boy, really. He'd no right to win that. Gets in front, and it's a neat, tidy finish. And then James Scott at the end, he should be at least working the goalkeeper. What is he doing there?
No, I mean, I don't know if that's a classic case of a very one-footed player, because I think he's used the wrong foot to begin with. And he's a bit of a sad story, James Scott. You know, I think he obviously broke through at Motherwell and he went on to, I think it was Hull City, and his career's just kind of went downhill from there, and he's ended up at St Mirren. But no, that was a golden opportunity to get all 3 points there, and St Mirren didn't take it. But to be honest with you, like you said at the start, I think 1-1 was a very fair result. I don't think either team deserved to get all 3 points in the end. And Olasanya was becoming a bit of a clutch player for St Mirren. I think he's only got like 4 or 5 goals this season, but every time he's scored,
big ones, aren't they?
Aye, it's like it's important numbers, especially when you're two big boys and Ayunga and Mandrin aren't they performing. It's good to have another option in there. So,
what do you both think of Don Cowie? I watched him in that post match, and he doesn't look very comfortable in his role in front of the cameras just yet.
No, you can see the inexperience in him, and it's fair enough. It's his first real foray into proper management. What I would say, he should be a bit more comfortable in front of the cameras to a degree, because I'm pretty sure he done 1 or 2 post matches as assistant manager in his time, because that always happens. Sometimes a manager can't do it. So I think he needs to just be a bit more confident in himself, because to be fair to him, the last couple of games have been decent enough results for them. You know, you beat Livingston, that was a huge game for them.
4 points out, brilliant.
And they showed real guts and character in that game as well, because to be 2-0 up and then get pegged back, it's tough. But they got to win, and they deserved it in that day. And last night, again, it's a decent point against a decent side. They probably should have won it, but he just needs to be a bit more confident. And I would also, just from purely selfish reasons, I would have liked to have seen him do what managers don't do, and it is my bugbear, and actually call out nonsense officiating even when it's going for you, because you should be checking things. And managers don't do it. That's just a pet bugbear of many all managers. But I think
he knows there's guys on podcasts that are going to dig out the referee's plenty, so he just leaves it to us. Or that's why Davies not on the night, because would have been shut down, especially with Dundee, honestly. Right, okie dokie. That rounds up the midweek action. We have got a wee bit just to tie up tonight's show. Should I say? We ranked goalkeepers. I don't remember if you guys have listened a couple of weeks ago. We ranked the goalkeepers 1 to 12. We've now moved on to defenders, and I say it was a very, very difficult task. So yeah. It's Graham Cobble said, come across the show, guys. Good to see people going over all the games in the Premier League, even though they support a particular team. Good balanced knowledge, opinion on each game. Cheers, Graham. Thanks very much. That's on TripAdvisor. That now, brilliant. I love that. Okay, yeah. So I've knocked up 12. You've knocked up 12, Lewis, and Connor, you're going to knock them up as you go. There's a joke in there somewhere, but yeah, you can knock them up as you go, and we'll see what we come up with. Lewis, go on then. You can start us off, because this is your baby.
Right. So I think that the best place to start would be to go from worst to last, because I mean there's just nobody from
best, you mean?
Worst to best. Sorry,
just one player.
I think obviously with Livingston, there's just nobody. There's absolutely nobody. I've picked James Penrice because I think he showed quality before in his career, and I think he's somebody that's capable of maybe getting up another level or two. But nah, it was very, very difficult to pick anybody from Livingston Football Club this season.
So my worst I gave to a man that featured earlier on the pod. I gave it to Garterman. I think he's been absolutely diabolical.
He's a terrible selection.
He's a bomb scare. I don't know if that's terminology we can use in this day and age, but he is a bomb scare for me. So he's at number 12 for me. Connor?
Owen Beck.
Right, I was about to flip the table there.
No, it's got to be.
By the way, Connor, we can only pick one player for each team, by the way, because otherwise this list would be half full of Rangers players. So.
Well, to be fair, that's fine. No, for me, the worst one, another Livingston player, a partner of Penrice's, Mikey Devlin. I just think he's had a stinker this season. I think he's a guy who, for a period of time, was reasonable at Aberdeen for where they were at the time. I don't think he had a bad time there. But since he's came to Livy, he's, I tell you what, they've literally let go of the John Lewis Devlin and they've got the pound shop one in the.
God almighty. Right, okay. I went for in at 11. I've given it to the boy at County, Leek. I've stuck him in at 11. Again, it's a real poor.
It's difficult.
It's so honestly, and I'm all for talking up our game. This is why I'm part of this show. But defensively, when you're looking at the players, there is just a real lack of quality. All the clubs, and I used to think it was strength of forwards they were missing, and I think no, it's not. It's defensive players.
Right, well, I mean, I'm the exact same. I mean, I've got Ross County player in at 11, and I went for Conor Randall, who I don't even think has played many games in defence this year, but he is a defender. I think he's actually, by trade a right back. So I've picked out Conor Randall. He's the type of player, I think he's like Dujon Sterling. He's played like 16 different positions for Ross County, and he's got a goal. So that's the only reason I picked him, because it's absolutely slim pickings for Ross County as well.
Connor, do you want to chirp in there? I know it's hard for you on the go. Have you frozen?
No, we've lost him. We got right to the end.
Yeah, and we've lost it. It looks like he's live there, but then the more you look at it, the more it becomes frightening. Okay, then. I went for Gogic at 10. Probably more so on last night, by the way. But I've stuck Gogic in at 10.
I think he's had a good season as well.
I know, but I just watched the highlights when you asked me to do this.
Well, see until we get to like number 6, man, it's every defender here is awful.
Go then, give us them right to 6 then. Come on, let's rattle through them then.
Right, so St Johnston is my number 10 pick. I went for Liam Gordon. Again, I think he's the best of a bad bunch. He's never really been excellent, but he's a solid centre back at this level. Number 9, I've went for Will Fish from Hibernian. Despite his penalty being given away, I think he's actually, again, the best of a bad bunch. And at 21 years of age, I think he's coming off the back of two really impressive seasons at Hibs. And he's somebody that if Rangers were looking at as a backup option to develop it, I wouldn't be annoyed at it. And he's obviously came from Man United's academy as well. So at number 8, I've actually went for a Hearts player. I went for Alex Cochrane, who... He's got 3 assists to his name. I think he's, again, the best of a bad bunch. It's just it's a theme going through the bottom tier of the league. Hearts have been a very top-heavy side this year. A lot of their centre-backs have struggled, and I think Atkinson struggled as well. Number 7, I've went for Georgie. Is it Ghent or Yent?
Ghent. Yeah.
He's been pretty decent on there. I think he's a left back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think he's got a couple of goal involvements. He's showed good physicality despite his age. 20 years of age, and he's came to the SPL and he's fitted in quite well. And then number 6 for me, I've went for Scott Tanzer, who has been very, very solid on the left fullback position for St Mirren. He doesn't get a lot of plaudits because it's usually Ryan Strain on the other side that's been getting the plaudits, but with him being injured, I think Tanzer's picked up the helm a wee bit, and I think he's amassed a goal and 4 assists for a decent St Mirren side. So he's actually the first player that is deserving of a decent position in this ranking.
You're going to leave it there, right? Okay, I'll bring you up to Connor. You can come in a moment just on the ones that we're going through if you want to chip in with anything different. But so I've given you Gartzam and Lake Gogic. My number 9, I've put. Oh, it's so honky. I'm embarrassed. I put Oberlai in at 9. He's followed by Big Bevis Mugabe at 8. And it gets worse. Lewis might turn his computer off in a minute. Jordan McGee in at 7, and number 6. That's when I put in Liam Gordon. So I think even my top 5, I'm only happy with my top 3 to be honest. But that's me up to number 5. Come on, Connor, you sat back there. We lost you for a minute. We're delighted you're back.
I mean, to be fair, I got over an hour there with that happening, so it was just a matter of time. I just want some clarity here in what the rules are, because at least meant to be who the best defenders are at each club. Because we've not even been telling by making great cases here. This has just been the worst defenders in the league so far.
See at 12. See out of 12 teams, honestly, there's like 3 good defenders. The rest is dreadful.
I'd probably go. I don't know. My number 11 would have been Andy Considine. Simply just, I don't know, experience, I suppose, that he brings to St Johnston. So because I mean, Liam Gordon, fair enough, but I'd have put him in there. I mean, God, they're all really bad. Is the problem? I'd have had McGabby at 10 personally because I think at Motherwell he's not a great defender, but he's probably the best of a bad bunch there, if we're being honest, because Paul McGinn's absolutely woeful. And Stephen O'Donnell, on occasion, will show up. So I do think he's probably the best they've got. 9, probably Laturi at Ross County. 8 for me would be Will Fish. 7, I think, would be Gartleman, because to put him any higher up than that would be, quite frankly, disingenuous at best. And 6 would be Alex Cochrane.
Now, just on Alex Cochrane then, because Will Feinstein, who's a Hearts fan actually that tunes into the podcast, thanks for joining us tonight. Wolf, he said Alex is one of our best performances this season. He's a consistent 7 out of 10. I think that's coming back at you, Lewis, for you sort of saying that he's not had the best of seasons. Buffalo Alberts has got a question. I don't really want to bring it up, but I'm going to say it's a no from me. Certainly. Oh, brilliant. I've actually got Cochrane in at number 4, just while we're at it and talking about
Have
him.
you not got anybody at number 5 now?
I have, yeah.
Just want to skip the order.
No, I just wanted, because we were talking about him, I just thought I'd mention it. I want to save my top 3 because that is pretty decent, but I've got Cochrane in at 4 for Hearts and Miller in at 5 for Hibs.
Well, number 5 I've got, as Connor like to describe him as, the John Lewis version of Devlin, and I assume he was opposing to Nicky Devlin, who, to be honest with you, I think he's actually having a really good season. Despite the rest of his defence being, so leaky, I think Nicky Devlin's been fantastic. He's got 5 goal involvements for that right back position, and 2 of them have came in Europe, where Aberdeen have played their best football this year. And he's a solid SPL level fullback. At number 4, I've actually went for Liam Scales, who has been, despite the fact that a lot of Celtic fans were discounting him performing before he'd even got his chance. I think for him to break through that mould and show that he's capable of playing at that level, and not only playing at that level, but probably being their best defensive performer with both of the fullbacks either struggling for fitness or struggling for form. And Carter Vickers been out for so long, and the Scales had a few impressive performances, the likes in the Champions League as well. So he's been a very, very good centre back for Celtic this year.
Connor?
I'm trying to remember the teams I've still got to go.
That's what I thought was going to be your problem about doing this off the cuff.
I think I know where I'm. So
number 5, Celtic, Rangers.
Kilmarnock, Celtic, Rangers. I already done Hearts because I said I was Scotland. For fuck's sake, I had it in my head. I knew you lost me. Kilmarnock, Celtic, Rangers. St Mirren is the other one I've got, and Dundee. So where was I? 5, Alex Gogic. I think there's a lot to like about the season he's had, and if you just look at in terms of, and it's no great quality we're picking for here, but the importance of a player or a defender to a squad, I think he's huge for St Mirren. I think if he picks up an injury or he's out of that team, they're clearly worse off for it, and I think he's more than merits being in the top 5 just for those reasons. Number 4 for me would be Owen Beck, I'm afraid. I think he's clearly had a really good season. Liverpool called him back to play him for 5 minutes and then send him back to Dundee, apparently, which was a bizarre thing. But again, he's a big player for them. And then we'll obviously let you do your top 3 and then we'll finish off.
Go on then, Lewis. Top 3.
Well, third I've got Owen Beck. I think he's been absolutely fantastic for Dundee, certainly the first half of the season. he's got 6 goal involvements, 2 goals and 4 assists for Dundee, and that's really, really impressive. And he's somebody that is I think is good enough for old firm quality. I think he would be an upgrade on Greg Taylor, certainly offensively, in my opinion. And
what about an upgrade on Borna Barisic? He'd be an upgrade on Borna Barisic, certainly.
But he wouldn't be on Redfan, and I think he's too good to sit on our bench.
I bet he could come in and he could.
Listen, Robert, the dream is gone. He's not coming. It's finished. But he's a fantastic wee player. I'll move on to my number 2.
The question I want to know is, would he be the John Lewis Barisic?
Aye, there you go.
Aye. So my number 2, I've got to get caned for this again, because I get caned for this on my 11. He's played 10 games at right wing back this season, so he qualifies. He qualifies. It's Danny Armstrong. 14 goal involvements, 5 goals and 9 assists. He's been absolutely tremendous. Despite he's played 20 games on right mid, I don't care. He's getting in.
Lewis, I cannot let you have that. I'm sorry. I cannot.
He's played 10 games at right wing back.
See in a couple of weeks' time when we do the midfielders, you're going to pick him again, and then we'll do the forwards, and you're going to pick him again.
I know.
I'm just amazed you never picked him for the goalkeepers.
And who's your number 1?
My number 1 is, of course, El Capitan. It's Mr. James Tavernier. He is the best defender in Scotland. He's been the best defender in Scotland the full time he's been here. His goals and assists are... There isn't a fullback in history that matches James Tavernier, so there's certainly not a fullback in Scotland that matches him. 21 goal involvements in the league. I think he's got over 30 in all competitions. Big moments again. I mean, he saved our backside, as recently as last night against Kilmarnock. He's 11 legend at Rangers, and this SPL should be very thankful that he's graced our presence for the last 8 seasons. So there's absolutely nobody even in the same stratosphere.
See when I was doing it, right, this is why Owen Beck's not there, and this is why James Tavernier's not there, is because I didn't want to go for fullbacks. I went for defenders. So number 3.
No wonder your list is stinking.
There's no fullbacks on my list, so I've gone for number 3, Lewis Mayo, who I think's been very good this season. He's probably the best pick on my list. Actually, that's where my list peaked. Was at number 3. 2, I've kind of went for the bit of a safe bet. I went for Cameron Carter-Vickers just because I think he is arguably.
He's not played.
Yeah, but he's Celtic's best defender. There's no question.
But if I've not allowed Danny Armstrong because he's technically not a right back, then you're not allowed Carter Vickers because he's played 3 times.
Well, he came on at Fir Park.
Actually, correction, Mr. Statman. Carter Vickers has made 16 Premier League appearances this season.
There we go. So Connor's given me him. That's fine.
Imagine batting a Celtic player on a Rangers podcast. That's dreadful. You.
Who?
You fucking picked Liam Scales.
He's 4th. Robert's got a 70% second.
Aye,
Liam Scales played for Aberdeen as well, so you went the worst of both for him.
So number 1, I've given it to Connor Golson purely because of the stat that came out in the week. 300 games, quickest player to get there in terms of was it days? I think he topped Tavernier, he topped Cooper, he topped McCoy. It's some company to keep, and I get that maybe he's not been his best this year. However, he's one of those ones like Tavernier that if he leaves the club, you'll know all about it. So for me, I think he's the best centre half in the country. Look, you're getting me in trouble. Look at this. Calvin's come in and said, "Well said, Lewis." I'm guessing he's on about your comments about me and Carter Vickers, but
well, now
all about opinions, Calvin. All about opinions.
So number 3 for me would also be Lewis Mayo. I think he has been really good for Kelly this season. There's no getting away from that. The fact that there's even been conversation about him potentially playing at Ibrox tells you the kind of season he's had. So fair play to him. I think he's been. Calvin Bennett. Nobody has.
Questions from two punters tonight about flatulence.
Dear me.
This
and,
is the eyeballs for testicles number again, isn't it? Oh.
At number 2, I think quite apt given we're talking about Fletcher's actually number 2. But I was going to go for Carter Vickers on the basis that he is the best defender that Celtic have got. You can't deny that.
So. Certainly, yeah, definitely.
But to slightly be fair, the fact that this person has played most of the season, I'm actually going to give Lewis his due, and I will go for Scales because I think Scales has been impressive in terms of the improvement in him, because I didn't fancy him much. Even at Aberdeen, I thought he'd been okay. But and number 1, I know you said about the full back thing, but quite frankly, it's James Tavernier. There's no getting away for that. It is James Tavernier. Okay, you could argue about his defensive work, but what he brings and his importance, and it's Tavernier all day long.
No, I think that's fair, as I say. But when I was doing my list, I tried to avoid fullbacks, but we'll give it to Captain Tav, especially on what he done last night. Okie dokie. We'll call it a night there because, as I say, I've lost my cool. I'm sorry to anyone watching if that's maybe spoiled your viewing experience, but sometimes you've just got to laugh or cry, as we're doing at the minute as well. I just want to actually put something here. So we are looking to invite, pardon me, supporters of other clubs on the podcast. Ordinarily, it's just me and 2 others of an evening. So there is a spot in the screen for one other head if we can do that. So if you are watching and listening and you're a supporter of Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, St Johnston, St Mirren, and you think I could go on there and talk about my club for 10-15 minutes and have a bit of back and forth with the guys, then certainly get in touch with us on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and we'll fish them out and get you on. I'd be delighted to just get another opinion from another side at another club. So yeah, certainly do that. And if you've joined us in the comments, like a few of you have, it's been a pleasure. Calvin and Buffalo Alberts, have got us in trouble. Wolf Einstein, it's been great to have your comments as well throughout the podcast. And listen, delighted to have these 2 guys as well, Connor and Lewis, because every time us 3 get together, there's always carnage. So if you have joined us tonight and you've enjoyed it, as I say, give us a like, leave a comment, and tell your pals as well. But for tonight, enjoy yourselves, enjoy the rest of the night, what's left, and we'll see you on Friday for the remainder of the podcast. Connor's going to come in there, he's got something to say. Oh, no, you're all right. Good girl, well done.